We ready, Sarah? Okay, yep, all set.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming here on Monday, May 1st, 2023. We're going to call the meeting to order a little late. Apologize for that. At 6:40. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have no adjustments. We have the approval of minutes for Monday, April 24th, executive session 4:30, Monday, April 24th, executive session 5:15, Monday, April 24th, budget workshop 6:15, and Monday, April 24th, regular meeting at 7 p.m. Would someone like to make a recommendation?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Perfect. We did not receive any public comments, or I did not. Did you? So is there anyone on Zoom? All right, no public comments. No communications either. Committee reports? No? Okay. And superintendent's report?
Sure, we'll start things off. We'll kick it over to our student representatives for their report.
I can start us off. Very exciting for seniors today. Today marks the National Decision Day. So today during Spartan Time, seniors got the opportunity to go in the pack and got to hear what Project Grad has planned for us at the end of the year. They did a lot of great fundraising, and they have a fun evening planned for us. Well, all night actually. And then 27 days till graduation. Not that anybody's counting, but yeah. And then lots of sports announcements. Tomorrow, tennis versus Marshwood. Girls are away and boys are home. Baseball is versus Noble at home. Girls lacrosse versus Biddeford at home. Boys lacrosse versus Lakes Region at Noble. Track has a meet on Wednesday at Bonnie Eagle, and softball has a game on Wednesday as well at home. Thursday, baseball Biddeford versus Biddeford at Biddeford, softball versus TA at TA, and then tennis versus Scarborough. Boys are home, girls are away. Friday, girls lacrosse versus Wells at home, baseball versus Scarborough at home, and boys lacrosse versus Trape at Noble.
Okay, so first off, Sanford Middle School's theater program brought The Little Mermaid to the Performing Arts Center this past weekend. On Wednesday, they performed for the 5th and 6th graders and the 7th and 8th graders on Thursday. It was a very talented group, and it was a great opportunity for the middle schoolers to perform on the big stage before they reach high school. And also, Sanford High School is hosting their annual art show next Thursday, May 11th. It will be held in the Agora area from 5 to 7. There are many different art courses provided at SHS ranging from painting to photography to drawing, and so therefore there will be a wide variety of artwork at the show created by these SHS students. So there's that to look forward to. And then lastly, the AP Research class will be having their research symposium on Wednesday, May 24th from 1 to 5. This event will be held to showcase all of the research projects that these students spent working on this year and all of their hard work. So yeah.
Also, this week and going into next week, AP exams are kicking off, so the test that AP students have been preparing for all year is finally happening, which is a little bit scary, but also exciting. But much more excitedly that's happening is this Saturday is going to be prom. It's going to be from 7 to 10 at Rustic Dreams Barn Wedding Venue in Lyman. I'm very excited for that to happen. I think, JP, are you both? Yeah. I'm very excited, so.
Thank you, folks. Yeah, a couple things. I was able to also see The Little Mermaid for the middle school theater troupe, and wow, I was blown away. Yeah, they had an opportunity to do it in our Performing Arts Center, which obviously lends itself, but what talent we had. I think there were over 40 students working on that in some capacity with that, with tremendous talent. I just was so blown away by that. That was awesome. And I'm looking forward to the AP Symposium with that. That's another one of my favorite days, when you can see the research that our students have been studying and conducting all year. Looking forward to that. Do you have the latest Sanford Spotlight that you can also share for us?
Yes. So making the front page is the Sanford Pride Spring Concert. Sanford Pride Elementary had their spring concerts on Monday, April 10th and Tuesday, April 11th. Many thanks to Miss Manio for doing a great job organizing the concerts and preparing students for the performance. Those concerts are available on WSSR-TV's YouTube page. Next up, SRTC students visit Life Flight of Maine. Students from health occupations, firefighting, and emergency medical technician toured Life Flight of Maine's training base at the Sanford Airport. The health occupation students were impressed with their simulation lab and the human patient simulator that could replicate most situations and reactions that they could encounter with a real human patient in transport. And then lastly, for my segment, Administrative Professionals Day. On Wednesday, April 26th, was Administrative Professionals Day. Thank you to all of our administrators across the district for their work to help our schools.
So at Sanford Middle School, 6th graders Olivia Keppel, Cheyenne Cullen, and Violet Jones cheer at Port City Athletics for the Icons team, which included girls from different towns and schools. This weekend was their end-of-season event, and the 3.1 they are both won from the U.S. Finals in Worcester, Mass. So if you would like to hear more about that, there's a little link there. And then next at Margaret Chase Smith, staffs and students got to experience a variety of activities from our health and wellness fair before spring break. The Welfare Society were able to bring in some therapy dogs and visited classrooms. Students learned how to be more active and bike safety, painted rocks, colored mandalas, and much more. So if you want to hear more about that, there's also a link there. And then next at Pride Elementary, the health class, the students made smoothies with the blender bike. So this is a bike lent to us from the Community Engagement Initiative called Let's Go 5210, which works with students and communities to create some environments that support some healthy behaviors. So if you want to hear more about that interesting event, there's a link there. And then next at Carl J. Lamb, Mr. Drew and his animals visit Carl J. Lamb Pre-K students on Friday, May 28th. So Mr. Drew and his animals too visited Carl J. Lamb Pre-K this Friday. Mr. Drew introduced him and his animals one by one, explaining their characteristics and habitats. So there's also a little article link there. And then at the Sanford Community Adult Education, Lisa Merlin, Noreen Parent, and also Sherry Tweedy, the administrative assistants for SCAE, they go above and beyond for the staff and students, and so we're very thankful for each of them. So to help celebrate Administrative Assistant Appreciation Day by recognizing their wonderful presence at Sanford Community Adult Education. Last off for the Spartan Times, the National Honor Society hosted its annual variety show on April 5th in this Sanford Performing Arts Center. According to the NHS website, National Honor Society membership has been the true mark of student achievement for over 100 years, but it goes far beyond a report card. By empowering, championing, and recognizing well-rounded students, NHS provides schools with value-based frameworks to evaluate culture, scholarship, service, leadership, and character. So if you'd like to find out more about the talent show or see some pictures from what you missed, there's an article linked there to the Spartan Times.
For this week, MCAS school nurse Mary Boone was recognized in the employee spotlight. She's also retiring at the end of this year. There's a short little excerpt from the interview with her, as well as a link to the rest of the article. Additionally, JP Alexander was named WMTW Scholar Athlete of the Week for the week of April 20th. He's hoping to break 450 for the 1600 meter race, and there's a link to view the clip of the interview with JP right there. And then for announcements, the kindergarten registration is now open for the 2023-2024 school year, and there is a link for more information there. Additionally, the spring sports season is starting at the high school and middle school. There's a link for both practice and game schedules for the high school and for the middle school right there. And as always, there are the links to stay up to date with the Sanford community, City of Sanford, WSSR-TV, Sanford Athletics, Instagram, and Spartan Times online newspaper.
Nice job, folks. We got to embarrass JP. We couldn't do that at last Monday. You weren't here with that. And I also, for the article in the Spartan Times on the National Honor Society Variety Show, with all the different acts, they failed to mention the talents of our 3 student representatives who helped there, Emma collecting the tickets, but Aiden and John Paul doing the emceeing, entering the acts, and really telling their jokes. I found those very entertaining with that. The dad jokes were off the charts. I might have stolen a few of those. They were excellent. Well done, folks. Good job. Moving on, we've got a field trip to announce. A while back, we talked about how Sanford Pride Elementary was able to get a grant from the Berlin Auto Group recently, and that grant's going to help all of our 4th grade students at Pride go down to the Museum of Science, coming back on Friday, May 19th, for some science enrichment and a lot of exhibits that correlate with science. So wishing them the best of luck for that. Also wanted to announce that Sanford Community Adult Education has scheduled their graduation for June 14th, 2023. The graduation will take place at 7 p.m. Photos will take place at 6 p.m. And they are planning to hold that graduation right at Sanford Community Adult Education, right in their library area. They're expecting 15 graduates this year, and feel that that is going to be really helpful and a great location for them. Many of the adult education students come there, have had some challenges while in high school, and so they really like to have the graduation right at Sanford Community Adult Ed, because that place has been so helpful and so supportive for doing that. So Jane Perkins, the director, and her staff are preparing for that graduation to take place right at Sanford Community Adult Education, right in the library area. I know Jane's looking at also, if there is very hot weather, also having some air conditioners and some fans also there to make sure that the area is going to be comfortable. So looking forward to that as we go to the end of the school year. The community adult education graduation is one of our favorite evenings for that. So any questions on community adult education graduation date and location? Also happy to announce this Saturday coming up is the annual Carl J. Lamb Color Run, and that's been a big fundraiser for their PTA for many years. A lot of the funds that are coming from that have been set aside to be working towards a new playground for Carl J. Lamb, new playground equipment. And so I'm happy to announce that we had a meeting recently with representatives from the Sanford Schools Legacy Foundation, along with members of the PTA and administration. And so we're starting to look at what we can do to start to bring that new playground to fruition. One of the things we've already started working on with our schools is we are doing we've worked with Sebago Technics to do a visual survey of the playground drainage concerns that we've had at Carl J. Lamb. Initially, it was looking like they'd have to complete possibly a complete site survey, but after sharing the original building prints, it looks like they're going to be able to recommend a solution for us without having to have the entire site surveyed with that, because our existing site plans do include some good information to be able to supplement with GIS data, including the LIDAR for updated topography. So, yeah, that's exciting as we're starting to get that work going together. We're also starting to look at how the Legacy Foundation might be able to come in and also be able to kind of help and support so that we can be able to look at breaking down with some of that equipment, added equipment into different areas. I've had conversations with Jamie Cole, our code enforcement officer, so it feels like we've got the support there moving forward. So that's exciting. One of the things we're planning on this summer is, as Steve Boussier mentioned at last week's school committee meeting, we're looking at, for facilities being used this summer, typically Carl J. Lamb has been one of our most heavily used schools in the summertime. We are changing things up this summertime. We are moving the extended school year program to out of there over to Sanford Pride. And that's going to free up Carl J. Lamb so that we can be able to maybe start to look at some of this work for the playground, as well as some of the other maintenance work that needs to take place there over the summer. We also received some plans looking at putting in a vestibule at Carl J. Lamb inside their lobby there that we're also looking to try to move that work forward. So that's exciting as we try to be able to try working towards that Carl J. Lamb playground. Also, one of the other projects we have is the field over at Margaret Chase Smith School. If you remember, that was part of the expansion and the renovation for that project. That field did not come in, and so we, at the time, we received funds from the contractor for us to be able to go back and to reseed that field. We have put that project off because of COVID in terms of, remember, we needed to be outside and we needed as much space as we have. So we're working towards starting that project. Sports Fields Incorporated is going to be on site to start that work beginning on the week of May 16th. And that work on that day will include some aeration of the existing soil, spreading 120 yards of new loam, and complete seeding and fertilizing of all the field for that. And so we're going to need to be off that field starting in that time to be able to allow those seeds to root with that. So we'll be working on that, also getting that worked throughout the summer as well as also throughout the fall. So that's also exciting that we can get that work taken care of. Any questions on CGL Playground or MCS Field? Update on our high school technical center construction project closeout. I've had some good dialogue going on with Hutter's president, and I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to hopefully bring this to fruition. Right now, one of the things we're working on is making sure that we have all the proper closeout documents and all the as-built for that. That was something that we were not sure that we had, and so I've been working with their site director from Hutter on the project, and we're working on being able to secure those. And that will go a long ways in helping us be able to eventually close out the project, because we want to make sure that the information is important for us to be able to have those on site with all that are there and also accurate for that. And then finally, I wanted to, we mentioned this last Monday's meeting when our student representatives went through that edition of the Sanford Spotlight, but there were 4 main educators that were named state finalists in the 2023 Presidential Awards for Mathematics and Science Teachers. That's called PAEMST. And so out of the 4 that have been recommended to that from Maine, one of them is our own from Sanford Middle School. PAEMST is the nation's highest honor for teachers of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Nominees complete a rigorous application process that allows them to demonstrate deep content knowledge and their ability to adapt to a broad range of learners and teaching environments. Maine applicants were reviewed by mathematics and science selection committees comprised of previous PAEMST awardees and content area experts. And so our state level finalists are going to be honored at the Educator Summit this summer. And so up to 3 state level finalists for each container are forwarded to the panel of distinguished mathematicians, scientists, and educators at the national level who will assess the applications before recommending nominees to the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And teachers are selected based on their distinction in the classroom and dedication to improving STEM education. And the teachers chosen to the presidential awardees will be notified by the White House, honored at various ceremonies in Washington, D.C., and will receive $10,000 from the National Science Foundation. So I'm proud to announce that our Sanford Middle School science teacher, Diana Allen, is one of the 3 applicants that were selected as a state finalist in the science category. So congratulations to Diana, and we wish her best of luck moving forward for that. And that's my report for this evening.
Wonderful. So we will move on to the director's report with Mr. Bussiere.
Good evening. The first part of my director's report, I have a dropout prevention report to the school committee this evening. First of all, the Dropout Prevention Committee met twice this spring. I'd like to thank all the folks on the screen who took part in this committee. And not only did they take part this year, but this is a group of committed folks who have stuck with this committee over the past 3 years that we've had this formal committee. And so I'd just like to thank them. And Jen Davey and Beth Lambert are here tonight. Special thanks to them. So what's the purpose of the Dropout Prevention Committee? It is a state statute that we have to have a committee that reviews the data. In that data, we look to identify trends. There's also a requirement that we report out publicly to the school committee and to make some recommendations. Now, I'm going to share some data with you tonight. We looked at a wide variety of data, and I'm not going to share all of that data with you tonight, but we looked at things such as attendance data, our disciplinary data, as well as the dropout prevention data. And I have any of that information you guys would like, I can share that with you. Why dropout prevention matters? When we think about, in the committee, we looked at all the students that had dropped out. And each one of those students has a story to tell. And it matters because it really speaks to a person's economic and their social well-being moving forward, their health, and the impact on our general economy and our community. There are some risk factors when we look at dropout prevention. Individual background, a student that comes to us with a physical, mental, or academic need, if they have early adult responsibilities, that they're working a large number of hours, if they are parents themselves, if they're taking care of siblings, if they are in a peer group that is engaged in high-risk behavior, if their school performance, if they don't have the literacy skills and the numeracy skills they need, they are oftentimes the students that we see on that list. In the school department, we say by the end of grade 3, students need to be reading and writing on grade level to measure that success. When you look at that retention piece, that is not early retention, pre-K, K, but we're talking about the retention that the risk factor is when you're doing those students that are in grades 3, 4, 5. The research in those areas leans against retention. If you look at student engagement, student poor attendance, low educational expectations, lack of effort, low commitment to school, they're not participating in extracurricular activities, they're moving frequently, or they're homeless. These are all factors that impact a student's success. And then the last thing is school behavior. Misbehavior, early aggression, or if they're involved in the juvenile justice system. Now, these are all risk factors. These are just risk factors. We have students that are resilient, that have multiple things on this screen, that are resilient and walk across that stage. Looking at our dropout data, here you have a historical average going back all the way to 2009, 2010. Last year's dropout, we had 37 dropouts, and our dropout percentage was 3.39. We did see an uptick, a slight uptick. That is not surprising given COVID. If we look at our four-year graduation rate here, the top graph is 2022, so that's last year. So if you look at last year's graduating class, we had 292 students that were with us as freshmen. The number of those students that graduated in 4 years was 255, and we had 11 three-year graduates, which made our graduation percentage 87.33. If you look at the year prior, we had 251 in that cohort. We had 214 graduates, 5 early graduates, with a percentage of 85.26. If you look at how we compare to other school districts in southern Maine that are similar to us in either size or population, you notice Sanford is in green there, highlighted at 87.33. If you look at similar districts to us, you can see Massabesic was 84.04. Noble was a little higher. They were at 92.34. South Portland, 84.94. Bonnie Eagle was at 81.91. And the state average was 86.39. So if you look at that, we were slightly above the state average. And I think we're comparable to the different communities that are there. Just like we mentioned that each student has a story, each community has their own story as well. So there's more behind the numbers. One of the things that really benefited us last year was the use of the COVID diploma. Maine statute made a provision for all students that were graduating from high school last year. If they were unable to meet our graduation requirements of 25 credits, but met the core requirements that the state outlines of 11 credits, they were eligible for that COVID diploma. And last year, we had 27 students that the school counseling office, the administrators at the high school were able to get those students that COVID diploma. When we look at dropout prevention, we look at what are those effective strategies that are really beneficial, that have proven success, that have been researched. The first one up there is early intervention from birth. We don't have students until they reach the age of 4 in pre-K, but really early intervention starts at birth. And so you talk about family engagement, that early childhood education, that importance of pre-K, that early literacy development, reading to your children every night. You look at what are some of those foundational strategies, systematic approach. Do we have a systematic curriculum? Are we approaching things in a systematic way? Do we have a collaboration with a community? And do we have safe learning environments? If you look at some of those core strategies, mentoring, tutoring, service learning, alternative schooling, after school, out of school opportunities. And then it all comes down to managing and improving instruction, professional development, active learning, utilizing technology, individualized instruction, and career and technical education. Thinking about those core strategies, when we think about students in our school system, we monitor. We monitor their attendance, behavior, and academics. And when we see a student is not meeting expectations or starting to have a difficulty, we intervene. Or support. That second column is support. We provide intensive, individualized support to students who have fallen off track and face significant challenges to success. So we have intervention. At the elementary schools, we have reading, math, intervention support. We have behavior interventionists. We have social work services, counseling, crisis response, support and transition programming, SweetSir, outreach. There's a lot of things that we do to support. And then engage. The third piece of that is engaging. How are we engaging our students? So SRTC, JMG, ELOs, after-school programming, clubs, athletics, focusing on that positive relationships. And then really that fourth strategy is personalize. How are we personalizing education, providing small learning communities for kids? And that happens through small group instruction, alt ed, bridge, special education services. So how are we supporting students in a personalized way? Looking back to the recommendations that we had last year, the first recommendation we had was to strengthen and sustain the mental health support we provide to students. And so these are some of the strategies that are currently underway or that we have added or tweaked since last year. So we have advertised for a licensed drug and alcohol counselor, and we were doing interviews for that position on Friday. We've added a SweetSir clinician at Sanford High School. We've added the signs of suicide and the sources of strengths program at the middle school and the high school. We've strengthened social work services for students K through 12 in the regular education setting. We've strengthened support for families around homelessness. The Sanford High School has increased their use of student groups in the school counseling office, and we're continuing our work on tobacco and vape prevention. We've had a speaker at the middle school. The Sanford High School did a student feedback group, and tomorrow we are having our first meeting of our tobacco and prevention work group. So some work is being done on that mental health front. We looked at strengthening student engagement and providing alternative learning options. Co-op at the high school, there's been an effort to make co-op, make students aware of it. And this, as of this, when this presentation was put together, we have 27 students that are engaged in co-op. Increase in student engagement in clubs and athletics. I think when, we mentioned the middle school play earlier, when you have 40-something kids involved in drama, that's great, and those numbers are up. The numbers are up for the Sanford High School drama club. The after-school clubs that we're seeing at the elementary school, there's been an uptick in participation. So getting kids engaged in schooling. We mentioned earlier, we've been using that COVID diploma to get kids that diploma in our toolbox, and apprenticeships. There's been some behind-the-scenes work trying to get apprenticeships up off the ground for kids. Supporting freshman success. The high school, over this summer, they did a book group to talk about how to support freshmen. The high school counseling team has also met with a group of freshmen that they have identified at risk, and they've met with those students, and they've had success in helping those students. And then coming next school year, we're looking at freshman teaming and seminar to be added in the fall. We also looked at strength and coordinate intervention systems at the middle school and the high school. We really expanded our use of the support and transition rooms, especially at the middle school. So instead of having students out of school when they have a behavior infraction, we're trying to keep them in. Helping them transition. If they had to be out of school for a while, helping them transition back into school. We found some great success at that, both the middle school and the high school, and it has been increased use in both places. There's been some work beginning the process for MTSS at the high school, and K through 12 in the Reveal program. That program has an intervention program built within, and so our staff is beginning to use that as well. And then the final strategy that I had to bring over, that we had 2 years ago, that finally came to fruition, is that we have the expansion of pre-K. So these are all strategies that we're working on. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but there are things that are on the radar and moving forward. Now, here's our recommendation strategies for spring 2023. Talked about alternative learning strategies. How can we provide kids with hands-on learning with real-world application? And that goes through our curriculum that we're doing K-12, use of co-op, apprenticeships, ELO, and adult education. to help kids earn credits needed for graduation and to give them real-world learning. I'll try that again. Real-world experiences. And then ways to support students that are out of school for disciplinary action. We have some students that are out of school for extensive suspensions for a variety of reasons. How can we provide those kiddos with academic support and social emotional support? Those were really with that alternative learning strategies recommendation. Student engagement, really continuing looking to increase involvement in the arts programs, clubs, and athletics, and looking at intramurals. We know athletics currently sometimes can be the haves and the have-nots, and looking to engage more kids and keep them here in the community. Coordinate attendance strategies pre-K to 12. There's a lot of work being done in attendance, a lot of work at each one of our buildings. They look at data frequently, they have meetings with parents, but really looking at that system to make sure we're being coordinated K through 12. And are we educating parents enough up front? And are we supporting families? And then at are we intervening early enough if there needs to be other involvement, other action? And then the last part, I think we talked about this at our workshop earlier this evening, mental health supports. Develop coordinated strategies or systems to address substance use, really as we look at our vape use, marijuana use, really looking all across what we're doing to sort of coordinate those strategies. And then the last piece is to sustain the current counselor, social work, and outreach staff positions. Are really, we want to add, that group wanted to add folks, but we know it's going to be a struggle just to sustain the folks we have. So those were the recommendations that we had. You know, as you look at those recommendations, I think there's a lot that can be done with the budget we have. Some of those recommendations don't involve more money. And so I think that the group was thoughtful as we came up with our recommendations, but I think those will help us get us where we want to be. Anybody have any questions? Jen, did you have any comments or?
My comments would just be to just give a shout out to all the people who dedicate their time to that committee and those meetings. But I would also go as far to say to all the folks in the district who every day are committed to dropout prevention, because there are so many people not in that room strategizing, but they're a part of the success of our students who are at risk for dropout. I think that we do need to be mindful of the sunsetting of the COVID diploma and being more mindful in our approaches with our at-risk for dropout students and getting excited about engaging them in alternate ways so that they have the desire and the means to be able to obtain a diploma. But I was really impressed with the feedback as well as the ideas and strategies that are currently happening. And I love that people continue to come to the table, and it's an evolutionary process, that it's not stale, it's not stagnant. People are committed to this work. And those are only the people I'm seeing in the room, but I know wholeheartedly that it is a district-wide commitment. So I appreciate that.
I would so not being in that room, what is the COVID diploma ending after this school year?
Yep, so the COVID diploma is sunsetting on June 30th, 2023. And so what tool will be in our toolbox? That's going away. But we will have another tool in our toolbox called the state diploma, which is similar, which is designed for students that have had educational disruption. It could be through homelessness, domestic violence, or they've been to multiple school districts. And so we have to learn more about that, and we have to explore that option, because we have not in the past. But it is a tool in our toolbox that for some, it's all about doing what's right for the kid. And so for some kids, earning that diploma and through, they've had not been dealt the best circumstances. And so it's about doing what's right for them to get them where they want to be, get them in the world of work. And so that we do feel there's times when we can use that, but we're going to have to look at it more in depth with that.
Thank you.
A couple more things. I just want to say that I think I agree with Jen that this work is really pre-K to 12. And the folks in the district are committed to this. And I think as we've met, the committee has met, these themes that come out of these 2 meetings that we've had are things that stick with us. So they stick with us, and that's how, when we went back and we reviewed what was accomplished from our recommendations from the previous year, it's stuck. So whether it be an administrator or a counselor or a school committee member, these conversations continue to support and accomplish what we want to accomplish. So I'm appreciative of all those folks in that committee. And I have one other update tonight. Transportation. I forgot to give you this last week on the agenda, but transportation, I want to give you a quick update. I did meet with Terminal Manager Rose Dunn and District Manager Debbie Coleman from Ledgmere recently to discuss staffing, athletics, and summer transportation. Staffing, as you know, continues to be a concern. We are using Connecticut drivers still to cover routes. However, we did add, they brought another driver on and put them on the route on Monday, driving a small bus. So our 6 contracted small buses are all now back on the road. We are looking still for full-time drivers. They're short about 5 going into the fall. And so they're continuing they have a couple people in the works. They know, I made the expectation clear that we want all our runs that are in our contract on the road in September. And so they're aware of that expectation with that. In terms of athletics, spring is a busy time. Our track team are large. The rain happens, things get rescheduled, and then the rain happens, and the rain happens. We had a lot of rain this week. But Ledgmere, so far, is meeting our needs for athletics, which is we're really appreciative of that. We are using the SRTC vans for practice, for the softball team to get to Kennebunk and for the lacrosse team to get to Kennebunk. The coaches are driving those vans, and so that has worked out well so far. But I just wanted to share that we have that cross collaboration going on between athletics and SRTC with that. In terms of summer, we are in good shape. They've always been able to meet our needs over the summer, and it looks to be the same there. We'll work to get them the names, and then they'll work on doing those routes so we can begin our summer program. That's all I have tonight until I get to policies.
Perfect. Exciting. We look forward to it.
Okay. Exciting.
All right.
Exciting for policies. That's good.
Next is Bethany Lambert with NWEA and spring assessment update. Welcome, Beth.
Hello. All right, so just a brief update today, May 1st, started day 1 of our testing window for the spring. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we're standing for the next month. So as you know, we've always done NWEA in Sanford. This year it's called the NWEA through-year assessment, starting with this spring assessment, specifically for grades 3 through 8 and 10, and the testing window is for the entire month of May. This is now the state main educational assessment. So it used to be we would always do NWEA because it was our universal screener. And then we'd also have to do the main, it was a separate assessment. So that added several hours to our testing. So they've combined them. Great for us because we've used NWEA anyway. So it's kind of shortened our testing time for our students by limiting the amount of assessments that we have to give them. So in order to meet federal requirements, and I know I've touched on this before, the federal government requires a summative assessment. So this is just kind of a quick visual to try to help everybody understand. A summative assessment is only going to ask questions above and below a student's grade up to one year. So if this is a 3rd grade student's assessment, this is their questions. The pink lines dictate how far the summative assessment questions will go. Anything below or above that, that's where NWEA goes. It'll ask the questions as far, whoops. Don't do that, Sarah. It will ask questions as far above or as far below a grade level to really fine tune where the students are at. So what they did was they mixed in those summative questions so that it wasn't going to be as stressful for students. So this spring, in order for NWEA to be able to take the time to separate out the summative versus the map growth, we won't get our results for our students until the middle of May. They said July, probably August, so I'm shooting for August. After this, though, we will get them within 24 to 48 hours, which is very helpful to our staff. So then we also have the science assessment. This is specifically for students in grades 5, 8, and the third year of high school. And again, they chose to keep it at the third year of high school because they wanted students to have those 3 years. They wanted biology and chemistry and those pieces for them before they took the assessment. And it does focus on the next-gen science standards. Let's see, the format, this one is online as well, like NWEA, and the questions occur in clusters around a common problem or scenario. The assessment is 3 60-minute assessments with 1 15-minute questionnaire, and this window is a little bit smaller. It's May 15th through 26th. And the data access, when we're able to get these results, is normally sometime in the fall. This particular year, it was, I think, January, so we're hoping. And so what I wanted to just share with everybody, people often ask, why do we have to do these assessments? What is the purpose for them? There's several purposes for them. NWEA alone helps us in our district with student interventions, as well as being our universal screener. By having this assessment done 3 times a year, we can see if our students are on track meeting their personal growth goals. It also gives us those specific details where a student might be struggling, so a teacher knows where to put in those small group pieces of work, but it also shows us where kids are accelerating so that we can, challenge them, and our GT teachers can work with them to support those students as well. But it also allows us to compare ourselves to similar districts, to the state, as well as the country. So we can see, we all want to know where our students kind of land in the world and how we're doing. It also supports curriculum needs. Where is it that maybe we need to refocus some attention, or what is it that we're doing really well? Professional development for teachers, and as well as district level planning. We use a lot of this data when we meet in the summer as we start planning our year-long goals as administrators. And so just kind of to give you a visual of what's been leading up to this spring assessment, the DOE has had several hours of ongoing training, which I have attended, taken notes, and gathered all the information that was necessary for our staff. I sent a letter home to parents in grades 3 through 8 and 10, letting them know of the difference for NWEA. I met with the middle school staff in person last week to kind of go over some of the changes and the differences in the assessment. And then I recorded the same presentation for the high school as well as elementary, because I couldn't quite get everywhere at the same time. And then I followed up with information for the principals to support their staff. So I kind of did step 1. They're doing step 2, just so we can continue the support, as well as working with the tech department, who have been amazing. And then each building has created their own testing schedule. So that's on the principals to do. I think, yep, that is my update. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
No? Thank you.
Just a big thank you, Beth. I
Yeah.
know you've really worked hard to be able to take the changes to this and be able to get all that information simulated in a nice, thoughtful way that we can deliver to our staff and get that information out. So we're trying to balance, these are important tests. At the same time, I don't think it's an opportunity for our kids to show how smart they are. I think it's an ability to show what they've learned.
Yes.
And to be able to do that. And if we can keep that, that's why we like the NWA, because it keeps that focus on growth and improvement. So,
Exactly.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have new business from Cheryl Fournier.
I have a few items on there for tonight. The first one is, I'll make sure I go in the right order, is that we actually got a Harvard contingent premium and we want to go over how we're going to separate that amount. So we got $350,000 from Harvard for the contingent premium funding settlement that was from July 1st through June 30, July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, which meant that we had to be down, we had to have a loss run less than, I think that was 80%, I forgot to bring that piece with me, 80% to actually be eligible for it. And so our, most of the people that are on this are teachers, ed techs, admin assistants, food service, and miscellaneous employees. So we are planning on rebating some of that money back to the employees based on percentages of how much we actually pay. So currently, if you go onto the second page, we'll just skim over how the summary works. We pay out just under $8.5 million worth of health insurance premiums. 89.1% of that is employer paid when it comes down to how much we did, so it's just under 7.6% million, and the employees pay approximately 1 million of it, or just over 900,000. So we take that, the check for $350,000, and we multiply it by the 10.9%, which is the employee portion. And so we're going to take the $38,347.64 and allocate that to the current employees that are still employed with us, because, you know, we're going from June 30th, 2022 until now. Some employees aren't with us still. And so we separate that out, and I kind of showed two scenarios of two different employees on here. And so one will get $148 for reimbursement, and the other would get $825 for reimbursement. So we have 346 employees that will get a reimbursement of some sort. They range from $2.70 to $825. The reason for that is we have some employees that are either on the single amount, came late in the school year, and so they get a lesser amount than somebody who is possibly in the food service department, which pays a higher percentage, and so they get a higher percentage of the $825 worth. So I am asking for you to approve us to allocate the 10.9% to the employees.
Who would like to make a recommendation?
I'll make a motion to accept Cheryl's recommendation.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Second that. All in favor?
Okay. So the next item on my list is we're going to be talking about the other portion of the health insurance premium contingent amount. So you'll see the same amount of $350,000, which is the check, the $38,348 that we're going to give out to the employees. So we want to take the additional $312,349 and move it to the health insurance reserves to use for budgeting in the future.
Perfect. So the recommendation is to approve reserving $312,349 into the Health Insurance Reserve Fund.
I'll make that motion. Seconded.
Perfect. All in favor?
Thank you. And so the last item is financials for the month of March. I feel like it's really late to do this because I'm already working on April's, but so we'll go through this. This is one of these anomalies where last year the three payroll month was April, and this year it's March. So it skews the data some. So I'll kind of point it out a little bit as I walk through it. So it looks worse than it really is, because it's the percentages are all done based on if we only had 2 payrolls in month of March and not 3. So it's just one of these anomalies that happen from time to time. So the current year expenses are currently over budget by $1.2 million. Well, I guess the actual payroll is approximately $1.2 million for that extra payroll. So it's really just that we're over budget. The revenue, we're coming in over $1 million over prior year, which most of that is for our subsidy payments. Federal grants, we have $1.75 million of revenue, and expense is at $1.6 million, so everything's going good on those. We are actually all up to date, and we bill out the following month for the previous month, which is awesome. So we're doing so much better in all of that. The enterprise fund is at $1.8 million worth of revenue, and the expense is at $1.85 million of expense. And so everything is going great with that. School nutrition revenue, of course, is always running 1 month behind. ESSER, we have $3.5 million in revenue that we've booked so far this year, and $2.5 million worth of expense. That one, we're actually working with them to get that one caught up. We're only a couple months behind now, which is awesome. We're about 7 months behind when we, in June, so that's awesome. Phaedra has been doing awesome at that. So we're getting close. And we're always waiting for them to approve our invoices so that we can do the next one. So when we go on to our articles, which is how we pass our budget, so that's nice and fresh in our minds. Article 1, which is all of our regular instruction. We are over budget by $447,000. That extra payroll that actually hits Article 1 is about $479,000 of that. So we are looking good there. Article 2, we're about $393 over budget, but in the extra payroll is just about $225,000. We're still over budget. We're working on the IDEA reclassification of some of the money so that we can move some of that to the IDEA budget. That will help. So we're looking at about $200,000 is going to get moved over to the IDEA budget. And we're just working on that. We're doing some logistics with the Department of Education to do that. For Article 3, which is, of course, our SRTC, we're over budget by about $50,000, but $271,000 was the extra on payroll, so we're looking really good in that grouping. Article 4, we're actually under budget even, but there's not really any payroll that goes through that budget in the extra payroll, so it's we're under budget. However, we just paid a couple of large bills for the turf, so we're going to see that jump up some. Article 5 is staff and support, and that's under budget also at $68,000. That does have some salaries in it. I didn't bother letting you know how much it was. It's not as much, very much anyway. And then the system administration, we're slightly over by $5,000, but that's at extra payroll for us also, because that's central office. Oh no, that one's not. Yes, that is central office. And then Article 7, which is our system administration, school administration, which is all of our administrators, is over budget by $86,000, but their extra payroll is about $82,000, so I'm not really concerned. It's about a $4,000 difference, but that could have been just paying something a little early, or fully paying something, or spending the money. Article 8, we're running about $142,000 under budget, and that's mostly due to not having all of our buses running. So that is, we're looking good in there. Article 9, it looks like we're over budget by $206,000, but that Willard building is really skewing our data because we've spent that 100% already, or have it encumbered. So the $60,000 of that was extra payroll, but most of that is skewing is just the Willard building and timing. Debt, of course, we're under budget by about $5,000. So we're looking good there. And then Article 11, we're under by $68. I don't think you could get any closer. And so that is our budget to actual overview. for March.
Excellent job. Who would like to make a recommendation to approve the March 2023 financials as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kelly.
Seconded.
Melissa, all in favor? Perfect. So no business, and we will move on to resignations and retirements.
Sure, so resignations, Lene Randall, Ed Tech at MCS, effective towards the end of the school year. Sally Tinkham, fourth grade teacher, MCS, end of the school year. Genevieve Traffolette, coming right up the middle of this month. Nicola Donatelli, grades 5 through 8, life skills teacher at the middle school. And Taylor Bollier, Ed Tech at Carl J. Lamb, back in April. And a couple of retirements to announce, too. One that we featured in the latest edition, reviewed earlier from the Sanford Spotlight, would be Mary Boone, longtime school nurse here in the district over at Margaret Chase Smith School, and Sue Young, a special education ed tech grades K through 6, also over at MCS. So big thank yous to Sue and Mary for all they have given to our students and our schools and the Sanford community. Wishing them best of luck in retirement. One appointment to announce, and that would be Jesse Giles, kitchen personnel over at MCS. No staff transfers, but this evening, being our first meeting in May, that's oftentimes an important day for us to be able to make some staff nominations. We have a large number this evening, as we're going to nominate professional staff from a first-year probationary contract to a second-year contract, and then we also have a large number that will also be nominating from a second-year probationary to a professional staff for continuing contract. What is the wishes of the school committee? Do you want me to read all of the names? Do we want to take that as an aggregate? I am open to suggestions.
I'm looking at the eyes of everyone, and I'm assuming, I think because we've got, what here, almost 40, if not more names, although we appreciate you all. But I think that we can move along with a recommendation to continue the contract of the above nominations for the second-year probationary contract as presented.
I'll make that recommendation.
Wonderful.
And I'll second that.
Perfect. And let's all vote. All in favor? Wonderful.
I do just want to point out that what we are nominating this evening, what we just did, was also included those people who are going to be paid with ESSER funds for next year, and those people have been communicated with to be able to know that their position is so. Out of all those large number, there are some of those that are ESSER positions.
Wonderful. So moving on would be I'm sorry. So we're also going to be making a recommendation for even larger list to continue contract of the above nominations for continuing contract, as presented for the staff from the second year and on. Okay. Who would like to make a recommendation?
I'll make that recommendation.
Wonderful, Kelly.
I'll second that.
Perfect. All in favor? Thank you. All right, moving on to the exciting policies and procedures from Mr. B.
Okay, I have two policies for you tonight for our first reading. The first one is policy ADAA, which is School System Commitment to Standard for Ethical and Responsible Behavior. Policy ADAA was last updated in 2007. The updated policy includes guidance for staff when revising consequences for violations of the Student Code of Conduct that focus on positive interventions. So what behavior do we want to see? For example, walk in the hallway, burst, don't run. The use of restorative practices, which involves repairing the harm and learning from mistakes. avoiding the use of zero tolerance policies unless dictated by the law, provides administrators with a judgment when determining appropriate consequences, and there's a line in there about providing written notification to parents with in-school and out-of-school suspension. In addition to those changes, there is a change in regards to language, in regards to ethics. The original line in the policy read, examination and discussion of ethical issues within content areas. And we would like to change that to integration of ethics into content areas. So just a subtle change there. The second policy is policy ADF, school district commitment to the learning results. Same thing, this policy was last updated in 2007. And the suggestion is to change the report on the implementation of the learning results to the school committee to a yearly basis rather than quarterly, to better align with our comprehensive needs assessment and when the assessment is given with that. And I recommend the first reading on policy ADAA and ADF.
Wonderful. Who would like to make a recommendation to accept the first reading of updated policy ADAA and ADF as presented?
I'll make that recommendation.
Thank you, Kelly.
I'll second.
Melissa, all in favor? Does anyone have any items for future agendas? No? Okay. And calendar announcements.
Sure. So we've got, as mentioned earlier, our work group beginning on vaping and tobacco. That's going to be meeting right here in the chambers tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 p.m. This Wednesday, we have the SRTC Advisory Committee meeting, which will be taking place right at the SRTC restaurant. That's the meeting where our students will serve us lunch, but also an opportunity for us to have a student panel and talk to the students. Speaking of lunch, this Friday, there's a typo there, this Friday is our school lunch hero day for all of our food service workers. We'll be able to recognize them. Next Monday morning, we have a policy committee meeting. A week from this Wednesday, we'll have the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting beginning at 2 o'clock over at Sanford Community Adult Education. Our next school committee meeting in May, our second one, is Monday, May 15th. And then our first school committee meeting in June will be Monday, June 5th. Also, just wanted to let people know that during this week's early release day, Cheryl Fournier is going to be presenting the insurance information to our employees for the open enrollment. And then we also have, that will be followed by staff wellness activities throughout the district. This month's Sanford Schools Legacy Foundation meeting is scheduled for this week, this Wednesday. That's at 4 o'clock, and this meeting will be via Zoom. Also, Wednesday in the evening is the Sanford Regional Technical Center National Honor Society induction ceremony. Will be taking place right in the Performing Arts Center. As already mentioned earlier in the meeting, the Sanford High School prom is scheduled for this Saturday evening, May 6th, 7 to 10. And then we've also got the annual Carl J. Lamb Color Run this Saturday. So let's hope the weather cooperates for that. And also wanted to let people know that Sanford Middle School this week is going to be welcoming Gordon Corman. He's an author of over 100 books, and so he'll be coming in for student assemblies this Wednesday. And in the Sanford Spotlight, we featured the Sanford Pride concerts. This week, our concerts continue. Sanford Middle School will have their 5th and 6th grade band and chorus concerts this Thursday evening starting at 7 in the Sanford Performing Arts Center. And then our next leadership team meeting with the city is going to be a week from this Thursday with that. And those are some calendar announcements. We do probably, at the end of this meeting, if I could hold everyone, we could try to look at potentially getting together for a student executive session for student disciplinary hearing that we do need to get scheduled about that.
Perfect. And one thing to add is I did learn today that it is School Principal Day, so thank you to all of our school principals and vice principals, because today is your day. And I guess this brings us to the end of the meeting, and I would wondering if anyone would like to make a recommendation to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Wonderful.
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks for joining and being part of this, and have a great night.